Wait, don't start the video yet. I have to block this real quick. And that is what inspired me to make this video. Gogmazios has been under a generational lockdown for over 10 years. He was last seen in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate back on the 3DS, but has finally made a return in Monster Hunter Wilds. We've seen Monster Hunter before take older monsters and remake them entirely from the ground up, like Fatalis. I'm a huge fan of what the series has done thus far, so I was excited to see what they were going to do with Gogmazios. And if I'm being honest, it's alright, I guess. Sarcasm, if you can't tell. I think Gogmazios is an amazing fight, but the reason why I call him the perfect disaster is because every aspect of his fight is a double-edged sword. Meaning, each aspect harbors a positive and negative result, respectively. So as we break down Gogmazios' design, with each positive I'll give, there's going to be a negative attached to it. I'm curious to see what you guys think of Gogmazios, so feel free to leave a comment down below with your thoughts, maybe rate it 1 through 10. Also, wow, I make more content like this, and Monster Hunter stuff too. Isn't that great? Wow, subscribing sounds like a great idea. With that being said, let's begin with perhaps the biggest pro and con for the Spectre of War. Like most revamped Elder Dragons, Gogmazios has multiple distinct phases to his fight. The first phase is your basic run-of-the-mill fight. Traditional, if you will. It's very reminiscent of 4 Ultimates GOG, but with Wild's combat mechanics. It's basically here as a warm-up, letting you dance with Gogmazios, get an understanding of how the hunt plays out. I was also made aware of how brittle I was. This Elder Dragon hits like a freaking truck. No, it hits like an atomic bomb, actually. I'm all for it, and I don't really hold it against him because it's been a while since I've played the game. I couldn't even get past the title screen without my game crashing, so after the update I was able to do that, so my armor is probably heavily outdated. What's very prominent here, and a noticeable difference from the original fight, is how dangerous and consistent the oil is. Gogmazios is dripping oil like ice cream on a hot day, throughout the whole fight, and it is a constant threat. There are 2 variants, oil that slows you down, and oil that explodes violently. It becomes a battle of awareness and positioning more than anything. I very much urge you to never run at an angle where you can't see where you're running, especially in the 3rd phase. In order to combat this, you have to use fire weapons to melt the oil off his body, and then his hide is exposed to the dragon element afterwards. Now I think this is an amazing idea. It utilizes the 2 weapon slots we get in Monster Hunter Wilds effectively. It's creative. And I hope they get to use this mechanic again in the future. The only issue is when you're first fighting him a couple of times, it's hard to differentiate when you should use fire or dragon element. Ever since then, I've kind of followed this rule. Use fire in the 1st and 2nd phases, use dragon in the 3rd. That has pretty much worked every single time. Throughout the entire hunt, you'll have NPC hunters helping you take down Gogmazios, such as Fabio, or Fabulous, whatever his name is, the newest hunter Nadia, and the others. The one that caught my attention was the guy who uses the freaking conga hunting horn. Whoever that guy is, he needs to die. The 1st phase I see no problem with. It's essentially the original fight made modern. Great job, love it. The 2nd phase is probably my favorite. Gogmazios covers the original battlegrounds with hot magma, and the fight moves to an elevated level. The way you interact with him in this phase reminds me so much of 2D giant boss fights where they're so big, you fight sections of their body and not the whole thing. That's not usually the case for Monster Hunter. I mean, I can think of like Jen Moran, but let me tell you something. It works here, and it works very well. Your goal is the giant wing arms. Use your weapons to melt the oil off, topple him over, and break off the ancient weapon glued to his back. Now at first, I was kinda disappointed. Like, I'm being nostalgic here. I remember the old Dragonator attached to his back, and using that against him when we broke it off was super satisfying. However, I think they more than made up for it with this. That was another reason why I was like, you know what, maybe I should make a video about Gogmazios. I really wasn't gonna do it, but that and that, yeah. However, some would say the preparation part is annoying, and I get it. You have to attach the Nexus to the cannon with 3 different lengthed cables, and if you're the one doing it, you're basically a sitting duck. Gogmazios will target those hunters specifically, so the others must distract him while the weapon is being prepared. It requires a lot of teamwork, and honestly, I don't really care. I think it's cool. I've been in both positions before, and it was great. I didn't mind it at all. But the 2nd phase really gives a unique perspective for Gog, as well as potentially for future giant monsters. This opens the door for similar hunts or ideas. Think, for example, Dalamadur. I'm not gonna lie, I really did not like his fight in 4 Ultimate, so hopefully, if they do add him back, it'll be much different. 2 completely different phases thus far that show Gogmazios' power in different ways. You know, we're doing great so far. Once you deal enough damage, he becomes airborne. The transition between phases here is done beautifully. Seeing Gogmazios fly higher and higher while you chase him down is a pretty cool in-game cinematic moment for me in Wilds. Phase 3 begins at the top of the structure here, and this is where things become a bit harder to defend. Notably, the third phase is the one people dislike the most, and it's for a number of reasons. The biggest complaint I've seen is the over-reliance on using your slinger to shoot anti-wyvern cannons, or whatever they're called. By the way, did you know you can charge them? It's just that I pointed out there. I didn't realize until like 3 hunts in. It takes up roughly, I would say, like 50% of this fight, or this phase, I would say. When Gog is flying, you're trying to snipe him out of the air, but for a giant creature, he sure is agile. I've missed plenty of shots before, maybe I just suck at the game. In the air, Gog has a plethora of new attacks that are they're pretty cool. He can drag his wing arms on the ground now, or bomb rush a player with his body. I've seen it kill many people before. Sorry, cart. But I'm a big fan of this. With the wyvern cannons, you can bring him down, and if you deal enough damage while he's down, you can keep him there, or he'll just get back up again. I understand where people are coming from. Personally, I don't mind it. I mean, I really like using the slinger as a main mechanic here. It's different, but still interactive. It's not like I'm stationary or invulnerable, or it's boring like a ballista in the older games. I'm still actively dodging explosions and Gogmazios himself. If you use your Sacred, you can move and shoot at the same time. It's still pretty fun for me. I mean, you tell me hitting him in the face with a giant laser is not awesome. Besides, I think it adds good variety to the fight. As much as I love the first and second phase, if it stopped there, then the whole fight would become quite the drag. The third phase adds a new flavor to the dish that keeps you entertained. Sure, they could have done something a bit different, but again, I didn't really have a problem with this. What I do have a problem with is the sheer volume of explosions and oil that happens during this phase. Gogmazios is throwing oil around that makes the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico from 2010 look like a drop in the bucket. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself as a developer, you know, maybe this is a bit too much. Maybe my actions are hurting the people I love. And look, I get it. Josh, you're saying the giant oily dragon has too much oil in his fight? I know, I'm surprised America hasn't invaded this game yet, but you could have lowered the amount he throws by like 10%. And I think it would be the perfect balance of, yes, that's still a lot of oil, but manageable. Thankfully, where the oil spills is mostly predictable, and the game does give you enough time to actively dodge it. And then there's his ultimate. Easily one of the coolest ultimates I've seen, but there is a glaring issue. If you A, don't have a weapon with a shield, and B, are not near Fabio when the ultimate is about to begin, you're pretty much dead. I would say this attack does not fairly give the player enough time to maneuver towards safety, especially if Fabio's at the other side of the ultimate. You have a better chance of Fatalis crashing the party than making it to him safely. Now, this is not an issue for me, because I'm a Charge Blade main. I have a shield. But I'm mentioning this for those who have to move towards an NPC who's kinda hard to spot in the midst of Hellfire. That does suck. Well, why does my shield matter, you might be asking? Because the game doesn't really tell you this in detail. If you meet the DPS check, which is pretty easy to do, you can fully block Gogmazios' ultimate attack on your own. And that is the coolest thing I've ever done in this game. But it's even better when I shield other players. It is such a beautiful thing to accomplish in this fight. Perhaps my favorite moment entirely. But you see what I'm talking about, right? Gogmazios does a lot of things right, but has very noticeable issues that make the whole encounter a perfect disaster. Let's look at another comparison. To go along with my complaint about too much oil in the third phase, it definitely plays a part in the ongoing balance between cinematography versus cluttering. These monsters are getting more and more cinematic as each game comes out. Like, I love cinematic boss fights. My last video was on the Dreglord from Night Rain, and well, he can create giant bombs from discarded corpses. That's pretty metal. Seeing him fly up from the second phase to the third is pure cinematography. It's pure majesty, and I love that. But actively trying to fight him while so many things are happening on screen at once, it can clutter it a lot. The giant puddles of oil you have to keep an eye on, the 8 hunters running around, Gogmazios himself. He normally takes up a majority of the screen. Your HUD going crazy with NPCs saying voice lines, tutorials for Gog, and your health bar doing like a friggin' schizophrenic dance. I'm sorry, I hate that health bar. It can be a bit too much at times, and if you're like me, you disassociate for a couple of moments. which does not work out well in the middle of a fight. What really helps and saves this fight from becoming too much is how far the camera zooms out to take it all in. That was an ingenious move by the developers to zoom out and let us take it all in effectively. It's not there yet, but it is getting to a point where cinematic monsters and their fights may become too much to visually handle. So this is not really a huge complaint, but more so a warning. Lastly, I want to talk about Gogmazios' gear. First of all, it looks so sexy. I've always loved how sinister his gear looked in 4 Ultimate, but to see it in high definition is beautiful. I think the armor set is fine skill-wise, although the numerous set skills from other monsters is kinda weird to me. But then I discovered that you can upgrade artisan weapons into Gogma enforced weapons that happen to have set bonus skills too. When you pair them together, you can get some insane combinations that would never work otherwise. So you know what, I give you a pass. I've only beaten Gog a few times, but what I'm doing right now is I have almost the full Gogmazios armor set except for the arms. So what I put there is Zoshia, because I have the headpiece that has the set bonus skill too. So you know, I get some extra recovery. It's not bad. The flexibility here is insane, and when paired with his weapons, it can be ridiculous. In a good way. The weapons are great, by the way. Look at them. Look, maybe it's because I don't even know. They're probably my favorite weapons in the entire series. Like, I just love the design of Gogma's weapons. Maybe not my favorite, but definitely up there. And I love how they structure them as well. It kind of reminds me of like Kulv Taroth. But my main complaint is the fact that they have enforced them into artisan weapons and their mechanics. It may be just me, but I don't really like artisan weapons. I don't like how Wilds handled it. I wished Gogmazios had his own pair of weapons and wasn't tied into another endgame mechanic. But it makes sense. But I wanted to express my disdain for artisan weapons. Overall, I still think Gogmazios is an incredible fight. If you want my personal rating, I give him a solid 8.7. I know it's a weird number, but that's where I landed. There's a lot that he does right, but has some areas that could use some work according to the community and my small points of criticism. In the end, he's my favorite fight in the game thus far. He has a great escalation of difficulty, cinematography, engagement, and has a great payoff in the form of his equipment. Keep in mind, folks, this is still high rank. I have no idea how they're going to handle this in Master Rank or bump it up, but if this is the direction we're going in, I'm very excited. I would love to hear your thoughts again on the Spectre of War, and of course, if you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and to subscribe for more content like this. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care everyone, and of course, stay safe.